Welcome to Too Much. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why I decided to create Too Much, why I felt it was imperative to do this podcast now, and tell you a little bit about my background so you can understand what drove me to this realization. So from a very young age, I knew what I wanted to do. I had a clarity around my dreams that was very atypical of an adolescent. I had a deep well of ambition and hunger that I still don't really understand where that came from, but I was constantly searching for the next mountain to summit. I had 3 jobs in high school. I got to college, and the day that I set foot at NYU, which is where I went to college, I was like, I need to get an internship. And I had an internship every single semester of college until I started working full-time my senior year, which I went from working full-time to working full-time. And then I've changed industries more than once. So I went from working in fashion to event production to television production to having a tech startup. And so in all of these diverse job experiences, I just felt like every dream job wasn't the dream. Every opportunity felt like it was tainted by like weird, toxic workplace culture. And every step of my career reminded me that I was different. I didn't quite fit in. I was too bossy, too competent, too opinionated, too feminist, too individual, too woman, too much. I was really over feeling that way. And so I turned to entrepreneurship. I decided if there wasn't a place for me in corporate America, I would create my own. And to some degree, that was the right instinct. I built a entertainment tech company. We built technological tools to help commercialize screenplays, to help Hollywood reverse engineer its way to more money and more inclusion. And at first, that opportunity to build my own little paradise where I could create my own dream work culture to make up for all the disappointing work environments I'd experienced, it felt like a dream. It felt like my small team was a little paradise of aligned souls working together in pursuit of this common goal. And even though the grind of building something from nothing was really hard and really challenging, and it was a big learning curve, we found our groove, we found fun, we found pockets of joy. But the other side of being a founder, which I hadn't accounted for, was the ongoing hustle of resources. And that part was utterly miserable. And largely that's because venture capital was not built for women. Women have never garnered more than 3% of venture capital since 2016, and only 350 women of color in the history of venture capital have raised $1 million. And yet, women get higher returns on capital invested. And so I was seeing this big misalignment when I was trying to raise money. And so despite me loving my company and what we were doing, there were these outside factors that were imposing upon what we were doing. And so we didn't have enough money. We never had enough money. Most startups feel this. And you start to feel like Sisyphus rolling that boulder up the same hill over and over. So whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a corporate employee chasing 7 rounds of approvals, like, you know what I'm talking about. And so throughout all these experiences, I kept meeting these wildly wealthy people, celebrities, CEOs of companies, and they were all turning themselves inside out to hit the next benchmark for some next idea of what success was. And they were slowly losing the plot in their pursuit of happiness, or at least its capitalistic definition, where wealth and consumerism are the main drivers. And what became crystal clear to me was that the majority of them were not happy. So despite having infinite wealth, fame, power, fans, access to cars, houses, travel, clothes, they were all defaulting to very transactional behavior. They would numb themselves with busyness, with achievement, drugs, festivals, alcohol, pretty people, plastic surgery, their phones, spending money, whatever hedonistic pleasure you can name. And I also want to say that for years, I was numbing myself with busyness and achievement and I too wanted those things. But as I met people who had them and realized they weren't actually fulfilled, I started to become disillusioned with the version of success our culture romanticizes. The more experiences I had, the less enticing society's checklist became to me. Did I really want a white picket fence if it meant missing my entire life? What is the point of working if the process leaves us unhappy, unfulfilled, disconnected from those we love, and endlessly in pursuit of what is next? This is the question I've been asking myself since I shut down my startup a few years ago. I started paying closer attention to how people were building companies and functioning in executive roles. And more, I realized most of them weren't present in their own lives. And it wasn't just executives. The disconnection ran through every level of the workforce. People were doing what they thought they were supposed to, but they weren't connected to themselves, to their heart, to their core essence. And I didn't want to live a life like that. I did not want to build a successful career at the expense of myself. I no longer trusted society's blueprint for happiness. We've been sold a lie. Essentially, we've been told that if we just get a good job, we find the right mate, we are owed fulfillment. Our parents' generation did all those things. They were able to buy houses, create more wealth for themselves. And my generation's trying to do all of that. I believe it's only like 8% of 30-year-olds own a house today, which is drastically different than my parents' generation. And we're finding that we're checking those boxes, but that's not what's happening. We're not feeling fulfilled. The reality is most people are stuck in symptoms. We're feeling restlessness, dissatisfaction, feeling stuck, burnt out. We're having quarter life or midlife questioning. And we know something is off, but we can't quite put our finger on what. We have the Sunday scaries. We're numbly scrolling social media. We're getting by financially, but it still feels like something is missing. We are slowly checking out of our lives and we are yearning to unsubscribe. You are not broken. This is a very universal concept many of us are feeling right now. You are just likely living out of purpose. And that's really what I've come to conclude. Society is starving for a different way of designing our lives. Late stage capitalism has left millennials and Gen Z increasingly disappointed with the professional sphere, as we have not been able to build the life we were promised. Post-pandemic, voluntary quit rates are up 25%, and 40% of global workers say they might leave their jobs in the near future. Why is that? Well, McKinsey did a study, and one of the main drivers is lack of career advancement and development. The second driver is inadequate compensation, and the third is uncaring and uninspiring leadership. These continual economic pressures and the effects of climate change mess with our mental health and our inner satisfaction. The systems we have relied upon are clearly no longer working. They are failing us. The values of our population differ from the values of our government and corporate structures, which leaves us in a great state of misalignment. We are in the midst of a moral crisis, and our institutions don't seem to be changing. So where do we find the tools that will usher in a new reality? In a misaligned climate, we have to begin by finding purpose and alignment within our own little corner of the world. And so what do I mean by alignment? Alignment is living in integrity. It's where we back up our words with action. Those things are always in sync, and we stay true to our moral compass and values. When we know ourselves and have clarified our values and our purpose, it is easier for us to stay in alignment because we can come back to center when we realize things are off or when they get hard. We can say, oh, I said that thing, but then I didn't follow up. That's not really my moral compass or who I want to be. What am I passionate about? When we clarify our values, we can say, okay, I'm really passionate about creating impact. I'm really passionate about interior design. those things lead us to our purpose. And purpose can have many different expressions. We did an episode of this podcast with Lane Baker, who's a therapist, and we talked about purpose being prismatic. So it doesn't mean we all have one purpose. We can have many things that give us purpose in our lives that help us feel fulfilled. And so by clarifying our values and understanding our moral compass, we can live in this alignment. And when we do that, we create an environment of safety for ourselves and for those around us that allow us and them to excel and be the best versions we can be. And right now, that's not happening. Everyone is feeling misaligned. And so to find fulfillment, we must stand in our purpose. And when we live by these guidelines, we change ourselves. And when we change ourselves, we change our community and inevitably the world. It starts small. Much like when you skip stones across the water and it reverberates out those rings. That is what happens when we live in our alignment, when we find our unique inner alignment. Our world reflects that back to us. And we influence our neighbors. So when I'm around someone living in their purpose and alignment fulfillment, it is a contagious feeling and energy. And then that motivates me to do better and show up better. You know, your purpose could literally just be, I'm a kind, loving person. So I walk around my neighborhood and I'm smiling, I'm saying hello, I'm checking in with my community. Your purpose could be motherhood. My purpose is to show up, stay very present with my children, see them and hold space for all of their parts. My purpose could be that I am an innovator. So I'm building this technology that I believe can fundamentally help the world and solve a real problem. And so I think we all have the capacity to feel fulfillment and to feel purposeful, especially in the world we live in. We have so many problems that need real attention and real help. And I think one of the first things for me was realizing that, okay, I feel overwhelmed by the state of the world and these problems. Like, how do I even make a dent? How to make a difference? And it starts with me. I realized that all I can do is start with me. And what makes me feel purposeful is this podcast, is my Substack, is a place where I can share with you ideas and tools and threads I'm pulling and hope that they help you, support you, make you think, make you take that with you to something that you're doing. And one of the major things I've realized is that we need to create a new definition of success. And that definition emphasizes purpose and fulfillment, not just money. We can own all of the parts of ourselves and succeed. We do not have to betray ourselves for the sake of building a life and paying our bills. And that is something I'm learning in real time. And that's what I'm doing on this podcast, is sharing that with you. Because the more that I live in my purpose, I have found that my life is more frictionless. It's easier. I don't have to do the job that is against my moral compass to get by, or that it requires me to work like a machine, burns me out. I've shifted it to, well, let me just go towards the things that make me feel valued, seen, heard, curious. It doesn't have to be my purpose, but if I feel like I'm going to learn something from that experience, then that's a worthwhile endeavor. And I want to also clarify something, because this came up recently when I was talking to somebody. So when we're talking about living in our purpose, right? What is authentic to us, our truth? Authenticity is not an external thing. It is not the things you buy, you eat, what you read. It is an internal process. And all of us can find very easily. So what is authentic about you? How you share a story, how you show up, how kind you are, your energy, what I feel when I'm around you. That is your authenticity. It is not what clothes you wear. It is not what car you drive. And those things can enhance, right? If you're living in your true nature, then my clothing just further enhances my authenticity. But it doesn't make me authentic to wear the clothes. My authenticity makes the clothes feel authentic to me. And we need to really remember that, because I think we're very focused on, it makes me interesting. It's like, no, you make yourself interesting. Everything else is just sprinkles on the cupcake. We all have something unique and special about us. And we all want less friction and more ease. And I'm here to tell you, living that authentic life where this is all possible. You living in your purpose and still making enough money. It is all possible. So for years, I didn't know that I had this secret blueprint. I've been a professional DJ for 15 years, and over the past maybe 5, maybe 7 years, I started to realize that my DJ career had quietly been my blueprint all along. It was always something that was in addition to what I was doing. So if I was a TV producer, I DJ'd on the side. When I had my tech startup, I DJ'd to help fund the company. It was never my only source of income. And then over time, I realized I never forced it. It grew year over year. It was joyful. And when I was following that joy, I found myself playing for people like Oprah, Vanity Fair, and Gucci with very little hustle. Like tons of celebrities, tons of big brands, festivals. And it was effortless because I never wanted anything out of it other than the joy of the experience. And so by just cultivating that joy, it became something that just naturally grew and took me to places I never dreamed I could go. Now it's such a big part of my life. It's been the secret little blueprint, and I will continue to do it for the rest of my life while I continue to share some of this stuff with you guys. And DJing's interesting because it's similar to being an anthropologist. That's how I think about it. We study people. So I can read the energy in the room. I read the unsaid in a room, and I shift it in real time. DJing has taught me about emotional intelligence, flow, intuition, awe, performance, energy management, and happiness. But more than anything, it has also taught me about how to love my life and how to live it more fully and how to make money with ease. And I've written an article about this on my Substack, which you can read. The craziest thing about DJing was that for so long, I was like, I can't believe I get paid to do this. I can't believe I get paid to do this. And as the money grew and grew, it was like, oh, I get to pay to this thing I love. That doesn't really feel like work. That just feels like a joyful experience I'm sharing with the audience and with myself. And I think I had a really weird relationship, which I don't think it's weird. I think we all probably feel this way, that force and effort equates to I deserve to be paid. And if something feels too easy, we feel like, it's too easy. How can I make money doing that? It feels too easy. Which the majority of billionaires and millionaires, they're not doing anything to make their money. Their money makes money for them while they sleep. And that was a limiting belief I had to unwire in my head, that the amount of hours I work did not equate to, it should not be like I deserve that. And so I had to rewire that because a lot of my early jobs were in production, which are very labor heavy jobs. A tech startup, building something from nothing, very labor heavy, time intensive. And here was DJing, something I just loved to do. That was like a release for me. That was so fun. And all of a sudden I was making money, and it was sort of, it took a while to understand, to rewire my brain and say that making money doesn't have to be hard. And so this podcast, Too Much, was born out of all these exquisite humans I met on the path of building my company and my DJ career, who were creating new pathways outside of the status quo. Humans who were successful, fulfilled, and living their dream lives. People who prove that this exists, not just me. And I began to feel like I was like hoarding wisdom. Everyone deserves these tools. Everyone deserves these tools to understand these ideas and blueprints that can lead us to our own divine genius. Every single human being deserves to live a life of ease and abundance and feel fulfilled in their day-to-day. We've interviewed humans like Dr. Keltner, who is a social psychologist, serial author, and pioneer studying the science of awe, happiness, and power. Lane Baker, who I mentioned earlier, who is a dynamic therapist who helped us break down burnout, the 3 types of burnout, and help us figure out how to escape it. We've interviewed Dr. Natalia Kozmina, who's one of the world's leading experts on neural tech, and she shares with us how to properly use AI so we expand our neural capacity instead of diminishing it. And these are just a few of the people who are building these pathways and showing us there's a different way to live our lives, have better tools to live fulfilling lives. We are more than equipped to weather the shifting tides of the world. There is so much collective knowledge that it's like we just have to find it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm cherry picking some of this intelligence to share with you so that we can start to think about and implement some of these ideas in our own lives. We can, in fact, design lives that leave us prepared, present, and fulfilled. I personally have changed industries 4 times. I've spent countless hours reading on happiness, well-being, leadership. I've listened to hundreds of great thinkers on podcasts. I've interviewed and interacted with people at the top of their fields for years now. I've helped thousands of people in sound by reading The Room, and this has led me to a very unique understanding of what constitutes personal and professional fulfillment. And for me, that definition is far greater than material wealth. True success is your inner value and your belief of that inner value reflected in the material world. It's internal contentment, doing a job you love while generating enough money to live comfortably. So every Monday, we are bringing you rebels, visionaries, scientists, entrepreneurs, CEOs, authors, and artists who possess tools to help you formulate your unique pathway for your most fulfilling life. Each episode is a mix of inspiration, emotional truth, and actionable insight for building a purpose-driven life. I hope you'll stay, I hope you'll learn, and I hope you'll grow with us. If you want to join the Too Much family, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or on YouTube. Please review us. It really helps with the algorithm. And you can also join us on Substack for exclusive written content that I write that provides more frameworks, ideas, and tools for exploration. You have so much to contribute, and this world needs your particular brand of too much.